Okay, I've called this one the Enshittification of HVAC. Now, if you haven't heard of the expression Enshittification, it was coined by an author by the name of Cory Doctorow. And it was in his book, Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse and What to Do About It. And this is really key to what's happening to us. And there's a change happening right now that we need to get our heads around because everything is moving in a new direction. And if we're not ready, we're going to get left behind. A lot of you are already fallen way behind. Okay, so let's talk about enshittification. We'll clean it up and call it encrapification. And basically the premise is this: everything's getting worse. Think about sports. Think about just service in general. Think about how things are manufactured for what's been coined planned obsolescence. Good enough to clear the warranty time frame, and then the problems start to recur. Why? There's money in it. Let's think about restaurants and food deliveries. Why is it that by the time you get the food to your house, it's almost double what it would have cost at the restaurant? What's going on here, right? Why is it all the stuff that used to be good, taking your family, this goes way back, bowling, has now turned into a nightclub experience with gouged priced nachos and cheap cheese on top of it, bucket of beer for $30 or whatever they're charging, and strobe lights and TVs and nightclub. What is going on here? So this is what we're going to talk about because it's happening to HVAC in a different way. So let's talk about the attack on the small business owner. When I was younger, actually when I had my business, they had local hardware stores and they were fantastic. You would go in, these had these shelves stacked with all of this inventory in there, and you kind of move through there, and you always had this guy that knew everything. And he'd walk you through if you're gonna repipe or let's say replace your kitchen sink garbage disposal. He'd walk you through how to do this, how to do that, make sure you have the right size, make sure you have the right amperage, all the different things. These guys just knew everything, and they were wonderful. And then comes the big box hardware stores, cheaper prices. They put those little guys right out of business. How about the local grocer? Most of you probably don't even remember locally owned grocery stores. If you're rural, maybe you still have one out there. But the big mega grocery stores came in and put them all out of business. They just underpriced and just basically priced their way in getting them out of business. And now I'm going through this. I want you to be thinking about heating and air, of what is happening now and what could happen differently as things go, okay? Local stores, all types of local stores. Now it's Amazon. It started off with Walmart, right? Walmart's the one that really started putting them under. You could just get anything at Walmart for much cheaper, and people just are predictable. They moved their business over there, and the local stores suffered, and finally they went out of business too. Now they're still out there. There's still a few. But there's been an attack, and we're seeing these mega companies come in, and not only are they killing it financially, what they do with the money they make is I question the morality. Maybe you do too, and that's another conversation for another day. But the point is, they have strategies that they have utilized to get in the position that they are today. And what they do once they have that position, that's a whole nother thing. The bait and the switch. I remember you going to the local video store to rent a video, VHS, back in the day, and it was 99 cents or a couple bucks, whatever it was. And then Blockbuster took off, and then finally Netflix put them out, streaming. Well, Netflix also put a major dent in cable. Why should you pay this big cable bill, that had to support all the wiring throughout the entire city and county and even state, maintain all that, when somebody like Netflix could come in and just undercut them? And they really made an impact. But Netflix isn't priced the way it used to be, is it? Doesn't have the same content and variety that it used to, does it? Doesn't have the same level of great options that it used to. It's just gradually gotten less and a little more crappy and a little bit more focused on what they want you watching as opposed to what you want to see. Now, is that because of an agenda? Is it because they save money? Maybe it's a combination. Let's talk about Uber. This is a good one. Did you know when Uber came out, it was great? Instead of like taking a bus or a taxi, you could call somebody with a clean car, come right up to your house, and for a few bucks, they take you right to your destination. And when you're done, you can do it again to drive back. Well, I bet you didn't know that when they started doing this, a lot of times Uber was paying the driver more money to take you than you were paying Uber to be transported. So why would they operate at a negative number? And who was paying for that? Well, in a word, private equity. All of these investors came in and they started putting people out of business. We had less bus routes because, why have empty buses driving all over with these schedules? They had taxi companies challenged. They had all of that system was affected, and then the prices started going back up. Put you out of business, then raise the price, right? And cut costs, raise profits at the same time. These are your bean counters getting involved. Google used to give you the best search results. It worked really hard so that when you typed something in, right at the top was the perfect website that you were looking for. Well, it didn't take them long to learn that if you just click through, you're not on Google anymore. Now you're on a website, and how are they going to make money like that? And so we started seeing the ads coming in, and they got a little bigger, and gradually it got a little bit confusing. And ultimately, you can still get to where you want to go on Google, but not before you click through a bunch of stuff because it's a little confusing. And they get money when you're clicking on these things. If you're paying Google, you know what it's like to pay for a click, and you know what it costs to pay for a click. And you've probably paid for clicks that didn't bring you any income at all. Google's not the only one. There's a lot of different strategies out there. Amazon used to give the best results, search results too. You want a pair of tennis shoes, you describe, boom, there it is. Well, it still does that, but you'll notice all these sponsored ones are coming up. It's a little different. Now there's all these accusations about how Amazon is actually strategizing to get the pricing up overall. I don't know about that. I'm not speaking to that. But what I'm saying is that all of these mega companies have structured their system for profit, in my opinion, over morality, over what's right. Okay, and if you're seeing that as well, it just really stinks anymore. Service is terrible. Quality is going down. You get less, you pay more, and it's getting kind of frustrating. So they put most of the small businesses out of business. Why shouldn't we think that we're next in heating and air conditioning, HVAC, or plumbing, or other home services? We do have private equity, okay? And I'm not saying that they're Satan. I'm saying that my feedback I'm getting from customers like you are telling me some stories that if they're true, they're not, those particular companies are not operating correctly. But they've got this huge amount of money behind them. Now, in our case, so far, they don't seem to be driving the price down unless you're seeing big companies where you are suddenly beating you. And there's no question about it. They're getting equipment a lot cheaper than you are, okay? A lot cheaper, sometimes half the price. Maybe. I'm fishing numbers. I worked for that side, but years ago, worked for, I won't say any names on this particular video, but manufacturers of heating and air conditioning that you know and work on every day. All right, so I've worked with those guys when I sold my business. So I do know what I did learn through working with new construction, the pricing that the contractor got to go and put equipment in a new home was so inexpensive it blew my mind. There's actually the cost at the wholesale level, or at what they call transfer costs, even if it's factory direct, that you build your profit off of, because that's what it costs the local store. Well, they were significantly beneath that through special, what they call a QRC. I forget the acronym now, but it was a special quote for projects. Okay, and so what they would do is they would drive that down. They would take the hit back on the factory, which was not that big of a hit. It just kind of shows what the profits were. And so they can adjust the pricing is what I'm saying. And when you're buying one piece of equipment that comes off an assembly line with one brand name, and it's one price, and then it has a different brand name, it's a different price, and then another brand name, it's even a different price, you're starting to understand how they strategize on what they call a blended profit, where they can make more over here, they will, make less over there, they will as well. Local grocery store, same thing. You can go to the same grocery store by name in the high-end part of town, check the prices, go to the low end of town where people are struggling, and you'll find that there's two different prices, because they won't be able to sell to them unless they get competitive. At least it used to be that way. So we got the private equity that are on the high end, and they are better than you. They're better marketing, they're better sales, they're hiring people, they're throwing more money, and there you are in the middle. And then we have the low end. I call them the part-time HVAC companies, use that term loosely, but these are self-employed people who really aren't qualified to work at your level, but they do it anyway. And they don't understand the cost of doing business, and so they charge too little. And so you're in the middle in the squeeze. You got private equity on the high end, and it's hard to compete with them because they went in many cases. They went in and took a larger company that was very profitable because that company had served customers who are willing to pay for the best. They're willing to pay a little bit more. So they went in and they essentially bought that trust when they bought the company, and many say that they are abusing that trust. They're taking advantage, they're gouging. Everything needs to be, you need a new system. And in my research, little detour, customers are seeing this. The reviews are showing it. We do a deep dive audit by market, and what it reveals is staggering, but I'll get there. So you're in the middle, and if you're the technician turned owner, you're really who I'm talking to. If you're a quality first business, now if you're just if you're just trying to be a millionaire like the next guy, that's tempting. Don't get me wrong. We all kind of fall prey to that. But if your goal is just to make money and you really don't care about that customer, if you're honest with yourself, then this is not for you. This is for people who they really take pride in their work. They really want to do it right. They just want customers to appreciate what they're doing and actually pay for it, because it costs money to deliver at that level, right? And you deserve to make your profit too, right? Now it's up to you. That's an owner decision as to how profitable you are. Do you go for the fences, or you just make your minimum profit and that you can live with? That's a personal decision. Now, let me ask you a question. Now that you have this business and you've worked on it for a couple of years, or maybe you're just starting, and you started getting involved with Google Business, and you're dealing with these manufacturers or equipment providers. And I'm not really talking so much about wholesalers, although this could be the case, but what if when you run the numbers and all your business is paid for and you look at your net profit, what if it turns out that Google makes more money on your business than you do? How would that make you feel? You're the one that's out there under the house. You're the one that's up there in the attic. You're the one that's got the stitches, is the sheet metal cut, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? You're the one that's out there with the blood, the sweat, and the tears. And they position themselves in such a way that they provide you a valued service, don't get me wrong, but they're actually making more money off your work than you do. What if the manufacturers are making more money off of you than you are making? I got an interesting story on that. I sold my business, was hired by an unnamed wholesaler they sent me to an unnamed manufacturer that I used to do business with under a different brand name. In the training, I had access to the computer systems. I looked up my old account and I saw what the profits they made off of me. They made more money than I made in my own company. They made more money off of me than I made with my $1 million company way back at a time that this would be the equivalent of about a $4 or $5 million company probably today. Anyway, little side note there. But what if Google was making more money? What if those manufacturers, there's a lawsuit right now at the time of this recording where there's a lot of accusations being made to this effect. Now, the wholesale level, you're talking more of a local businesses that buy that equipment, and they're trying to make a profit just like everybody else. And I really don't want to target them because there's some good wholesalers out there. And there's probably good manufacturers too. But what if that's the case? In shitification and crapification. One of the things I want to explain about that I've learned in going through this is as things get worse and worse and worse, they keep charging more and giving you less, keep charging more and giving you less. And there you are in the middle. This happens right before the fail, right before the fall, right before people have had enough and they walk away. This is where we're at with a lot of these industries. People are starting to walk away. It can be social media platforms. It can be sports fans, used to live for sports, no longer want anything to do with it. Watch these big players roll on the ground and cry like little babies, acting like the soccer thing, where they over dramatize some little inconsequential strike. Anyway, back in the 90s, back when, I used to love sports, man, they play with heart, but the experience has changed. I mean, you know what it costs to have season tickets to these events these days? Maybe you have them. It's interesting. There's some philosophies on that. Okay. So if in shitification, as it gets worse and worse and worse, is right before the fall, what happens after the fall? So Google, all of a sudden, have shifted into AI. So instead of sending all of their traffic through these money-making routes, now they are actually providing AI. You can ask AI, and it will do the homework for you and make a recommendation. Now, all of a sudden, they're making a monetary sacrifice again. Why would they do that? Well, if you look at the sheer numbers that, like ChatGPT, when it came out, it was just killing it. What happened was there was a huge shift away from Google searches over to ChatGPT searches, where they would just ask ChatGPT to do the work for you. And that's, I think it went from 6% to like 40 some odd percent in 1 year. This is a change that you need to be aware of because this is affecting your business right now, okay? People are going to ask AI to go in, search all the website, do the research for them, and come up with the best result based on their long tail prompt. And they're not sitting there typing, they're just talking. I'm here in your city, Ohio, wherever you're at. And here's what I'd like. I'd like to have a heating and air conditioning company come out, and I want to have them repair my equipment. But I'm getting tired of these people always trying to push me and sell me something that I don't want. I'm really getting tired of people making recommendations based on incompetency. Some guy out here, he pretends like he knows what he's doing. I really want somebody that knows what they're doing. They're not going to try to sell me or pressure me into something I don't want or I don't need. They're just going to be honest. And I don't mind paying a little bit more, but they're not overpriced. Go research and find me the best heating and air conditioning company under those conditions. And you know what AI will do? It's going to do its best to go find that. Now, if you're advertised family owned, 20 years in business, quality work, Train Carrier Linux, whatever dealer, I mean, so is everybody else. Everybody else is saying the same thing. If you are speaking SEO language, which is for Google, to an AI, which is looking totally different, you're not going to be recommended. You're not even going to be seen. You'll be scanned and eliminated. The transition into AI is one of the biggest challenges for you right now, but it's also one of the biggest opportunities. Now, keep in mind, these companies, Anthropic and all the ones that own the AI spaces, are all operating at losses right now. They're losing money, but they got private equity money coming in like crazy. This is a fight. Whoever wins this thing, they're going to win big. What happened when Uber came in and they basically not operated at a loss for so many years? Why did they do that? Because the end result was going to be worth it. Now, right now, you may ask AI for the best local home service under these conditions, and it may give it to you. Is corporate America that honest? Do they do unscrupulous things? Will those search results ultimately be something different, or will they remain honest and actually do a good job? I'm under the impression that currently it's honest and it's doing a good job. Now, there is a lot woven in there, and I've tested that, and I do see that there's limitations imposed. And there's agendas that are held that I don't necessarily agree with. So don't trust it fully. But just understand that your public, your customers, are probably trusting it more than they should. So now, how do we do that? So what is it that AI is going to deliver? Think about a barbell. There's weights on either side. On one end, there's the big brand name. Think Nike. Think Train, Lennox, Carrier. AI is going to recommend that. On the other end, there's the little guys, but what do they have to have in order to be recommended? These are specialists. These are highly qualified specialists. Blue ocean, if you know that term, good for you. If you don't, I talk about this on other videos. Blue ocean is that thing that makes you different from every other heating and air conditioning company. So everybody's this, and you're this like specialist, and you become relevant because of that. What is it that you can feature that makes you unique enough that AI can recognize it? Now, this is different than SEO. You just make that promise, and Google will recommend you. AI is going to go make sure they're going to go try to prove it. You're saying that you're a specialist. You're saying that you're certified. You're saying that you're this thing. They're going to go to prove it through your citations, etc. But they're also going to go right to your reviews, and your reviews had better darn well back up the claims that you're making. That's the strategy. For now, the window of opportunity. Right now, you need to beat the squeeze. Got mega company, private equity backed funds and everything else. You're just a really good tech. You built a nice little business, but you don't know how to compete. You can't go toe to toe with them. You need to learn what it takes to play at that level and to be perceived at that level. Okay, we've done the research on that. And I can tell you right now, a huge part of it is a polished brand. You need to be perceived as professional. You need to be perceived as stable. You need to be perceived as technically superior or at the highest level. That's just the ante to get at the table in the game. But if you're going to win, you need more. You need to work on securing real life relationships, old school stuff, a network. You need to know how to interact with people outside of the electronic world, because that is your plan B should you ever need it. So many businesses are gone like that. How many businesses have you heard of where Google business just took them off because of something that they perceived as incorrect or unethical, and they just take you down? You know, your reviews weren't real or whatever. Maybe it's happened to you. A lot of people this happened to. People that did nothing. Their business almost died overnight. This tells you that you're set up on something you shouldn't be set up on. You need a better stability. We need real networks and connections with real customers who are loyal, They see your honesty, integrity. They value your technical competence. And while you're using technology to draw these people in, if you're doing this right, this is a strategy, guys. We're at another level now. You can't just do great work and expect to grow. I mean, you can, but as soon as that switch comes, it's just not going to last unless you build this properly. So as you've done this, you're going to have to build the machine, right? Automate this thing that gets you out of the truck, right? And you're actually having a business that is sustainable. Because the AI bait and switch, in this person's opinion, is not if, it's just a matter of when. That's what I think. I don't know. This is like a guy used to watch, I still watch. He says, I'm just a butthole with a laptop. So I'm just another guy with a camera, right? And we've all got our experience. I've been in HVAC for a long time, and we've been working in this branding and identity space for a long time. That's why I've been preaching. You need your unique identity. When you brand, you don't just go over to mega brand company and say, hey, make my crappy position beautiful. That used to work because everybody else's brand was so ugly. Look around. Look at all the wraps. Everybody's drawing the attention. You got to do more than just draw attention. Standing out is good. Setting yourself apart is the goal. That's the blue ocean. So you need to find your blue ocean. What makes you the better choice in your ideal prospect's mind, the customers that you want? Document that advantage. Make it part of your website. Make it part of your communication. Then you're going to make sure that your customers, when they give reviews, speak to what makes you better, and they confirm that the promise that you're making to your world is true, because AI is going to go check it. You're saying you're doing this thing, you're saying you're better, they're going to check your reviews, and if it doesn't verify it, they're not going to believe you. But if it does, all of a sudden, AI is just going to bring you a boatload. Right now, this is the biggest opportunity. Don't just rebrand, reposition. And don't say, well, I've been building this for so long. The game's changing, okay? Don't hang on to what's worked halfway because you got so much invested, unless you really got it right the first time. If you're Pete's Heating and Air, Ramsey AC, what is that? That just says I own the company. It doesn't say anything about what that company brings to you, the customer. If people can't perceive what makes you special, and if it doesn't generate genuine desire in them, why should they choose you? And then make sure that you are re-entering the physical world through networks, interacting with your customers. Emails included on that, right? You've got your customers. You're keeping track of them. How many of those customers you keep up that relationship with? How many of those relationships you continue to nurture? It's called internal marketing. These are the types of things that you have to do. And the bigger companies are already doing this. I was studying the reports on a particular market with a particular company, and their highest praise was their honesty, and not their honesty. It was their communication and personality. They were just great people. But their biggest complaint was that was used against them, and they were gouged, or they were overpriced, or they were told something needed to be replaced only to call somebody else and get it fixed with a $15 part. People believe that until they don't believe that. When they don't believe that, they're going to be looking. And when they're looking, they need to see you. And when they see you, they need to see, there's my solution. If you get that, you get the big picture. It's not enough to be on Google Business anymore. It's not enough to have SEO. It's not enough to try to convince the world that you are the best. It is time for you to rise up and become not just the best, but experts in communicating your greatness to the world in a way that they can recognize it, and they have a desire to act upon that. Pete Ramsey, HVAC Greatness. Sorry for the rant. I've been offline a little bit, but we're coming back. I've got some things going on in the background, and I'll tell you about it later, but we got some big things in store. Reach out, Pete at HVAC Greatness. I will talk.com. I will talk to you in the next one.